They are deeply corrupted, as in the days of Gibeah. He will remember their iniquity. He will punish their sins. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. Look how it talks about grapes once again. Just like it talked about the threshing floor, the wine press, now it talks about grapes. Because in the harvest of Revelation 14, we see how Yahweh first gathers the wheat and then the grapes. First the few and then the many. Israel represents the many, those who still will rebel against the two witnesses, the true doctrine, and then be killed. Well, the two witnesses be killed, and then they will be killed during the 30 days of Hosea 5:7. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness, because they are grapes of Israel that have grown in the nations, within the nations where they were scattered for their sins. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first fruits of the fig tree in its first season. When Yahushua came the first time, the first season, he saw the fig tree and he cursed it, and the fig tree dried up. And that was to represent that he came to Yahudah. He came to those who were his people, but his people rejected him, as we see in John 1:11. So he came to his people rejected him. So he came to the fig tree and he saw that he had no fruit, only leaves, which represents the works of the flesh. But it didn't have fruit, which represents the actual works of faith, of the Spirit. So Yahushua cursed the tree to represent that those people who rejected him, being he their Messiah, they would be cursed through their action. So I saw your fathers, meaning 2,000 years ago, as the first fruits of the fig tree in its first season. But they went to Baal Peor. This is key, because Baal Peor is the Lord of the hole, or the Lord of the gap, or the Lord of depression. So it's connected with the spirit of error, the one that they have worshipped through the calf, the golden calf when they came out of Egypt, or the calf of Shomron mentioned in the previous chapter. That is Baal, the Lord in English. Peor, the hole, a depression. But I mentioned that word because it is a spirit that puts the soul in a hole. So you feel depressed, you feel empty. And that's whom they have been worshiping. But they went to Baal Peor. After Yahushua came, cursed the fig tree because they killed him, he left, and then they kept worshiping Baal. So they went to Baal Peor and separated themselves to that shame and dedicated themselves to that shame. So for 2,000 years, the people who claim to believe in the Most High and in the scriptures, they have dedicated themselves actually to shame, to Baal Peor. They became an abomination like the thing they loved. They loved idols. They are abominations. They became like the idols, so they will be abominations. They think that idols are nice, so they will be like the idols. That's why I always say that people will pretty much build their own heaven or their own hell, because people choose where they are going to go, away from Yahweh and therefore away from everything that is good, or close to that which is only good. And therefore, when you understand that, you want to get closer and closer and closer and closer, because the closer you are to the Almighty, to Yahweh, through Yahushua, the better you will be for eternity. So they became an abomination like the thing they loved. So if we love Yahweh, we will become loved by him and like him. But people love a false Messiah, false doctrine. So they become an abomination because they worship the abomination of desolation, who will appear and claim to be the Almighty on earth. So they became an abomination like the thing they loved. So that shows how they actually love the abomination of desolation, which is the false Messiah, the Antichrist, the true Antichrist. And that is something very important. I repeat it a lot, but I think it's very important that we understand it, and also for those who may watch for the first time, that the God of this world, as everybody knows, is Satan. And he has made sure that everybody follows a false doctrine and therefore a false Messiah. So when the false Messiah appears, known as Antichrist, to most people will be actually the Christ, because that's how upside down everything is. So that's why they will become an abomination like what they loved, because they love the abomination of desolation, which is the Antichrist. And that is key. So that's why also Yahweh says that he had to shorten the times, because what the enemy is preparing to deceive the world is so huge, so amazing, that if Yahweh doesn't shorten the times, even the chosen few would be deceived. But since he will shorten the times, the chosen few won't be deceived. But that is chosen few. So that means that for the many it will be very hard, and that's why they will end up dying, because they will realize it way too late that the one that they thought was the Messiah actually is the Antichrist.